So often we talk about this Sunday, and we talk about Thomas. He's often given the name Doubting Thomas, and I'm not sure that's exactly fair to him if you were to study a little bit more about it, but it's common to call him that. Many other churches celebrate this Sunday, and they have a little bit of a twist on it, and they call it Holy Humor Sunday. It's a day of a lot of joy and fun in their church. They might play practical jokes or dress funny. Even some have been known to have clowns attend church on that day. We've kind of dabbled in that in the past, and I may do that again one day, but I'm not so embarrassed this year either. Today I want to really look at what is happening in these texts, all of them kind of together. First, in the book of Acts, we have the scripture that is at its essence about communal living, true community, where they share each other's items, they share each other's wealth. They don't just give, it's sharing. It's a whole different thing to share than to give. Mother Teresa has said that people should share joyfully with what they have. That she doesn't ask for people to give out of abundance, but to share what you have. No matter what you have, no matter your station in life, she believed that everyone had the ability to share something of themselves. Not just their time, or not just their treasure, and not one in the absence of the other, but both at the same time. Mother Teresa is also known for having literally hundreds of her ministries throughout the world. Hundreds of places where sisters in her organization worked to bring those dying in off the streets, even here in the United States, in New York and Washington, D.C. She never once asked for money. She never solicited for donations. She trusted and believed that as long as her ministry was important, people would hear of it and would give. That they would hear of it and take such joy in this work being done that they would even find their own way to give. I watched an interview with her recently from 1989 with William F. Buckley. It was about a 30-minute interview, and Buckley tried really hard to get her to ask for money. He really was trying to help her. He was like, but Mother, please just give us an address. And she was even obscure in the address. Basically, she almost said the equivalent of, send it to our organization in Calcutta and it will get there. Miraculously, it often does get there. She was so reluctant to ask for money. She believed that good people, that Christians especially, would give out of the joy of their hearts, knowing that this work was being done. Coincidentally, at the time of that interview in 1989, they could account for 54,000 people being brought in off the streets of Calcutta, dying in the streets, and were allowed to die a more dignified death within their care, just in Calcutta. There's also the famed theologian of the 20th century, Henry Nouwen. He passed away, I think, about 10 years ago now. Henry has influenced me a lot, and actually, as you've heard me say before, the proper pronunciation of his name is Henri, but I'm just not good with that. Henry comes out much quicker, and he was known to go by both. He was Danish, he was a Catholic priest, and he taught a lot of people, wrote dozens of books, many which are very easy to read, almost like longer pamphlets. Henry wrote a book called The Spirituality of Fundraising. And I went on Friday to hear someone who knew him personally for many years, who was taught by him in seminary, speak a little bit on this book and on Nouwen's philosophy of fundraising and giving, of sharing in a way. Nouwen was much like Mother Teresa. He didn't believe in doing things like bake sales and whatnot to raise money for a church, though he wasn't opposed to them. He just didn't think that they were what giving was really about. They didn't have the spirituality in it. I kind of disagree with him a little bit. I think there's a lot of great fellowship that takes place in that, and a multiplying of gifts as well. But Henry's tactic, Henry's way to tell people to fundraise, was simply to be courageous enough to ask. That if your ministry was so important, if your ministry was so necessary, all you had to do was tell people about it and invite them to join in the joy of that ministry. To not offer them or ask them to give so that your church might stay alive, but to ask them to give so that they could do so joyfully and happily be a part of what your church, for example, might be doing. He might come to an offering invitation at church and truly invite someone to participate in that joy. Rather than saying we've come now to that time in our worship where we invite you to our offering, Henry might get up and say, I want to share with you the joy of all that our church is doing and how happy it makes me to be a part of it. And I know that you probably want to be a part of this. Here's a way to be a part of it. To give money, to give of your time, to give of your treasures. Take great joy in that. If you think there's not a lot of great joy around here, take a look inside our bulletin. I think we've set a new record for announcements this week. There is a lot of stuff going on in here. Not just Polka Sunday. I'm going to really push that home. Get the people here for Polka Sunday. Get them here for Elvis. But those are ministries in and of themselves. They celebrate heritage of people. They celebrate a time many would like to hold on to and should be able to hold on to. A nostalgia of good times. The Elvis impersonator will come and sing gospel music that will be truly uplifting. That's a ministry. But deeper than that, we're helping a family who lost everything. We've done that before. There's probably 4 or 5 families we've helped just in the last 2.5 years who were fire victims. That is great joy to be able to do that. There's the Appalachian mission trip. Imagine the joy you might have, and maybe you don't. I'll get to that in a minute. In helping someone from this church be able to afford to go to North Carolina to learn skills of mission that they can bring back to our community. But not just that, to also grow closer together in community with those going, to meet others of our faith in that church camp, to relax a little bit for some of that camp, but to help others, to help our neighbors who live in communities much like ours, but maybe even more destitute. One of the places that we'll go work at on that mission trip is called Farm Cafe. I can't remember exactly what the acronym of FARM stands for, but it does stand for something. I've been to that place. It's a neat little cafe right down the street from Appalachian State University. It's a place I would take someone on a date or otherwise. It's not a soup kitchen by any means, but you can go in there and eat regardless of means and eat in dignity. Not be served in a line as if someone is making you feel less than. Go in there and order from the menu and have the food brought to you. And some people pay more than the menu price, and others pay nothing at all. Some people pay more than the menu price and then go back and help wash dishes so that they can keep their costs down, so that anyone can come in there and eat regardless of their means. At least one of the days on our mission trip, we're going to help do work at that cafe so that they can keep their costs down in order to feed people with dignity. There's other things mentioned in our bulletin as well. We've decided that each month, we've kind of already been doing this, we're going to continue to do a mission project in this church. Recently, we've collected school supplies. We've collected items for 100 hygiene kits for people after disasters like hurricanes. In the month of May, we'll be collecting items to give to the only homeless shelter that I'm aware of operating as well as it is in our county in Pottsville. I've been to that shelter. Some of our church members have actually spent nights there helping them with their organization as well. It's a good place. If you think we don't have a homeless problem even here in Pine Grove, I can tell you that in the last month I've received 3 or 4 phone calls looking for a homeless shelter from people with a Pine Grove address. Of those, a few of them came in from the same person, or people looking to help the same person. That's the closest homeless shelter I know of. That's the place where we can send this person to stay when they're ready to do that. Those are things we should do. I will tell you that I know for certain there are people in our community living in sheds through the winter without heat or electricity. Now, there may be many reasons for that, but we have a homeless problem in our community. Other people will tell you that there are many properties in our community where people are squatting, where they're living in homes where they're not supposed to be. And again, there are consequences for that. It's not a legal thing to do, but they are without another place to live. We have that here in Pine Grove, and it's more than just a few. There's other items in here if we look even further. There's a community yard sale. Again, that's a fundraising issue, but we will be doing that and providing people a way to buy goods they might not otherwise be able to buy. People will be able to put income into their own hands at their homes, and also the money that goes to support our church will support our missions. On and on we have a list of things to do. And Henri would say that they speak for themselves, and that is a joyful thing to be doing. But here's another thing he would say, that if people don't give, so what? Maybe you ask them again. But Henri knew God's love so in depth that he believed the thing that matters the most is that each of us and all of us know that we are a beloved child of God, and that God is God, no matter what. He would tell an organization that if you can't raise enough money for you to exist, and your organization dies, okay, God is still God. You are still loved by God. He might tell a church, there are lots more churches around you. You are not the first and last of the churches in this world. God is still God. Everything has a life. He wouldn't fret about it too long. He says that we shouldn't make our very existence or our love of God be connected to our existence of a church, but that our spirituality of ourselves and of our community. That if one church might close, they would just join with another church who didn't close yet. And we really don't know the reasons why that occurs, but they occur. And Henri would say, okay, so they occur. God is still God and is good all the time. That we should ask people to give out of joy, and we should do so courageously and joyfully. But now his thoughts bring me to our gospel reading. Now it has something else about him in all of this. I find his take on all of this not only refreshing and also very logical, to be honest, but there's a peace about him in this. I never met him, but I've spoken to several people who have, and they said he always just exuded that peace. In fact, someone who lived just down the hall from him would joke that in seminary, when he was a professor at seminary, he would actually live with the students. That was a requirement of him teaching, and he taught at places like Harvard and Yale. He didn't want a high salary. In fact, he gave most of that away. He wanted to live in the dorms with the seminary students. So one of my professors lived just 2 doors down him. And he jokes that in the morning when they would get up, he would often see someone come out the bathroom and say, "You don't want to go in there. Henri's in there exuding the glory of God." He was just that kind of person. Even in his morning routine in the bathroom, when you stood near him, you knew that God was present. He had this peace about him. You can Google him and look up some videos of him speaking online. I've been watching one of him at the Crystal Cathedral recently. It's a pretty powerful sermon that he gives. But this peace about him is something he exuded, and it was known to all who always came across him, no matter the situation. I would define that peace not as the absence of violence, not as a belief against war, not that at all, but the presence of Christ. The presence of knowing that you are a beloved child of God and that everything else is secondary to that. That love is the one and only love that can meet all your needs. I know you've heard me say before that when he would counsel people in pre-wedding counseling before he married them, the first question he would ask them was, do you believe that each other will meet your needs, that you will be fulfilled by their love? And often young couples would say, of course, I love him, I need him so much, my life couldn't be without him. The counseling would stop at that point. If you said that to Henri, he would tell you that you're not ready to be married and your relationship with God is not where it needs to be for a healthy marriage. That you need only one love, and that there is only one love in this world that will never disappoint you. If you've been married for any length of time, I'm sure you're still very much in love, but your partner has disappointed you. That happens. It's normal. Fathers and mothers and sons and daughters do the same thing to each other, but God does not. So this peace about him, where does he get it from? It's pretty obvious to me. He gets it from the gospel of Christ. Today, 3 or 4 times, Christ shows up and says, "Peace be with you." This to me tells me that when Christ is there, he brings peace. Each time he entered this room, even a week later, he said, "Peace be with you." He didn't say good morning. He didn't say hello guys. He didn't say what's up or I'm back or anything like that. He said, "Peace be with you." Because when he is present, so is peace. And he even sends his disciples to do the same. It says it right there in John that he is sending them forth to do the same things, which includes us. I know we focus a lot on the 12 disciples and the apostles to come afterwards, the letters of Paul. But all of this is to call us to do the same thing. We too are disciples. Again, our bulletin comes to mind. We are doing so much in our world, and there's many other things that will be coming. We are truly being disciples here, and I have great joy in that, and I hope you do as well. That this speaks for itself. I believe that our invitation to offering today is simply our bulletin, if you were to look at it. That somewhere in there is something that surely you would take great joy in participating in. I know you've heard me say before that I think people should give with 2 requirements. There's probably some more I would add now, but I'd like to mention these 2 right now. That you should give generously, whatever that may be for you. And it is different for all of us. But that you should give cheerfully when you give. It should not be a chore. It should be a matter of your spiritual relationship with God to continue to see that exist in this world. But I want to take this all up one notch just a little bit. This peace be with you stuff, this peace of Henry Nouwen, this peace that he had. And I think he had it because he talked about it so much. You have to talk about these things more than just on a Sunday morning. I often get frustrated even with myself, and I know I've done this here probably hundreds of times, where we have the passing of the peace. And that's what it's supposed to be. That's what it is here in the Gospel of John. Jesus passing his peace on to others. And oftentimes myself and many of you say good morning and how you doing, and I might tell someone that Kathleen caught 3 fish yesterday and I caught none, and it's not a very peaceful moment for me to admit that. I miss the opportunity to pass the peace of Christ that I know he has given me. I know I'll do that again. I'll admit that now. I'm sure there will be times where I miss the opportunity to truly look at someone in their eyes and say, "May the peace of Christ be with you." But as I was thinking of this, and I guess this is the thing that if you take from here anything, I hope it's this. What if we didn't just say it on a Sunday morning? What if, even if we got the peace be with you right, and I'm not sure we will, and I'm okay with that, as Henri would be. What if we took it into our Monday through Saturday lives? On average for this year, there are 70 people here every Sunday. That's an average, sometimes more, sometimes less, but 70 people. And there are 52 weeks in a year. If each person that came here, and even our children, if we trained our children to do this, said outside in our community, just 3 times a week to someone, "Peace be with you." Or even to get really bold, to be known as a Christian by saying, "May the peace of Christ be with you." What if you said that to the lady at the register at BG's? It might take her back for a moment. But if we did that, if 70 people here did that just 3 times a week in our community, that would mean that "peace be with you" would be heard 11,000 times in 1 year in our community. That's a lot. That's a lot of peace going around. Maybe a little awkwardly, but I can assure you that for the disciples, Jesus popping through a wall and saying, "Touch me in my side," was not exactly an inawkward moment. It probably wasn't so comfortable for them either. If they can do that and do all the things they can, surely we can say to the person at the drive-thru window, "Peace be with you," instead of "thank you." And it may seem weird, but I'm only asking you to do it 3 times in 1 week. Before you know it, you might be doing it even more often. It may seem silly. I know it seems like it's hard to do, but it really shouldn't. It's just a few words. It's non-offensive words either. I would think that if anybody gets mad at you for saying "peace be with you," they really did need to hear that. 11,000 times it could be heard in our community. We could be that church to do that. I think there's so much more that we're doing that is affecting our community and making our church vital. But to reach that goal, I truly believe that if that were heard 11,000 more times than it is, outside of churches, if people heard peace be with you 11,000 times in Pine Grove, that would begin to change our community. It's a simple thing to do. It doesn't cost you any money. You only have to be just a little bit brave, and you might be able to sucker your kids into doing it before you do, because they tend to want to do those things first. I will say that I haven't done it yet. I'm going to try to start today. Maybe I'll go fishing later this afternoon and say it to someone along the creek. I'm not sure where I'll begin it, but I promise I will. I promise that at least 3 times this week I will say, peace be with you, or better yet, the peace of Christ be with you, to people in our community. Now, you kind of expect me to do that. I'm the pastor, of course. But Jesus expects us all to do that. We believe in any Protestant denomination in a concept called the priesthood of all believers, that all of us are called to minister to others in some way. We all have spiritual gifts, and we're all meant to share them. If you have the gift and the ability to say thank you, then you have all that it takes to wish someone the peace of Christ. Amen. Please join me.